Why are there so many shows starring Muppets and dozens of movies too? They said they'd watch everyone and they mean it. It's something that they've got to do. So now they've pledged you a lifelong commitment. Muppets, Matthew and Sam.
Welcome to Commitment, the podcast where two friends have vowed to watch all things Muppets. I'm Matthew Gatos.
And I'm Sam Schultz.
And this week, we are obviously celebrating Halloween.
Your Halloween voice started off kind of like a, not like a wrestling announcer, but you just sounded like maybe you were like introducing like the wonders of Canada or something, you know?
Not quite the spooky Halloween vibe then.
You got spookier in the second sentence, but the first one was like, it's like when you're at Disneyland and the guy's like, ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy the wonders of color, and then the parade comes down. That, you know. So
it was like I was like thought I was being spooky, but then he was more of like, please be scared.
Exactly. Yeah, like the announcer when he does like the Halloween parade.
Yeah,
and he's like, since time immemorial, ghosts and goblins have been haunting mankind. Now they're here to dance for you, like that.
Well, thankfully, we've got enough scares to talk about this week because we made a huge mistake and decided to watch Meet the Feebles to celebrate Halloween this year.
I think this is one of my questions for you when we get into it. But I think it was appropriate for Halloween. I think it is a horror movie.
Oh, yeah, it is horrible in many ways.
Well, okay, that's different than a horror movie, but we'll get into that
later. We do, though, shifting into serious voice for a second, should tell you, Meet the Feebles is a movie made to be shocking and upsetting and offensive, all on purpose. So we will be discussing some upsetting things today. So warning, there will be mentions of suicide, sexual assault, drug abuse, racism, gun violence, and probably more topics I'm forgetting right now that we don't normally discuss on this podcast, but we made a mistake to watch this movie. And we totally understand if those topics are off-putting and maybe you don't want to listen to this episode or, you know, watch the movie, especially if you don't want to hear or see anything about those topics. So heads up.
I also don't think we made a mistake because this ties in so much more with the Muppet Show than I was expecting it to, honestly. It's so much more directly a riff on it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's something I'll talk about is that I wish they almost did more of that. Mm-hmm. And actually, it feels like everyone I've heard talk about this often refers to it as sort of a Muppet Show parody or homage or like that. And it barely gets there. And if it was more of that, yeah, I think they could have. I won't necessarily say it would be a better movie, but I think it would have been a movie with more direction to it.
I honestly don't think it falls into parody because it doesn't say anything in particular about the Muppet Show. It's not saying like, this is stupid. It's just taking the bones of that to tell a different kind of story.
Yeah, it's as if you take, you know, the ABC 2015 series where it was, okay, we're going to show the behind the scenes of the Muppets making a TV show. But in the ABC version, it's like, oh, they have dating issues or they go and they get drunk at the bar or this. And this one is like, but what if they also killed people and did drugs and
sometimes their faces melted.
Yeah. So it's more comparable, I think, to the ABC Muppet series as opposed to the Muppet Show. But again, very, very, very different content.
We don't know what J.P. Gross was getting up to.
Yeah, he's got some Bletch vibes to him.
Definitely.
But I guess first, before we even get into what this is, the question is maybe you're asking is why are we watching this? Not only is it slightly Halloween-y, but for those that don't know, this movie and these characters were recently mentioned on the TV series Muppets Mayhem on Disney+. which is even more wild now that I've seen this movie.
Mentioned in a way that makes, in that universe at least of the Muppets Mayhem, makes it canonical that they existed and that these events unfolded and that Peter Jackson was there for some reason.
Yeah, well, again, it could be that the Feeble world is similar to the Muppet world in that the Feebles were just making a movie when they made Meet the Feebles.
True.
So that the Feebles are all real characters outside of the movie of Meet the Feebles.
But he does say that they're all in jail, remember?
I think he says one's in prison and some are in witness protection.
He says two are in witness and protection and the rest are in prison. That's what he says.
I mean, there are actors out there in the world, though, Sam, who are in
true.
prison. So,
and probably in witness protection, too.
But we don't know about those.
Well, we don't know, yeah.
But yeah, the story goes that Peter Jackson's cameo in Muppets Mayhem was originally supposed to be more than just a cameo. He was supposed to play the role that Kevin Smith plays in that Get Back parody episode they do. He was, yeah,
right.
He was
obviously because he was the one who made that movie.
Yes, he was supposed to be the director of the documentary in that. He was not available to do the full episode, and so he was like, "Sorry guys, can't do it." And they went to Kevin Smith. And then near the end of production, Peter Jackson was like, "Hey, I have some free time. Could I still be in your show?" And they were like, yeah, sure. And so they came up with this little scene for him to pop into Muppets Mayhem. I think it was
nice.
I think they said it was the very last thing they filmed for the series.
For the whole show.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so, yeah, he comes in after they've been, recording and everything that at the very end of the documentary episode. And Floyd says to him that he hasn't seen him since that night in Wellington when they met the Feebles. And Peter Jackson says 2 of the Feebles are in witness protection and the rest are in prison, which was apparently an ad lib by Peter Jackson.
Oh, he forgot the ending of his own movie, actually, is what happened. Several of them aren't in prison.
I mean, more than several, I would say.
I guess they could have done bad things after the movie, but...
Meet the Feebles for me is a movie I have heard of through the years multiple times. I think 18-year-old Matt would have eaten this shit up. Especially like in college, going to film school, watching lots of schlocky, not bad on purpose, but like cheap. Yeah. And so we're going to lean into the parts where this can be bad or gross. I watched a lot of that stuff. I had a roommate who was even more into watching that stuff than I was. So I'm sure things like Bad Taste and stuff were probably playing in the background in our dorm. Right. But I definitely had never seen Meet the Feebles. So when they referenced it on Muppets Mayhem, that was the first time where I seriously considered watching it.
Crazy that they referenced it on Muppets Mayhem in retrospect.
Crazy that Disney would allow that to just be referenced on a show that they were making in 2023.
To direct people to watch this film is a bold choice. But I absolutely would have rented this. I think it's just an accident that I never rented it from like Hastings and because I'm sure walking past, you'd see the hippopotamus with the giant machine gun, and I'd be like, this is interesting. I love Evil Dead. Maybe I will like, this gory Muppet movie. But I think part of it is because I did see it, like I mentioned many times, parts of it on cable when I was young. And I probably did see it in Hastings and thought, absolutely not. I will never look at that again. It scared the shit out of me.
And I will say up front here, I'm going to try and not be overly negative today. Even though we watched something that I think in many ways is morally reprehensible and could barely be called a movie, I'm going to try really hard not to be too snarky and awful.
That's fair. I kind of liked it, so maybe we'll balance each other out.
Maybe I'll just be saying why a lot throughout this episode. But we've talked around it enough, Sam. How about you tell the people what we watched this week?
Let's say there was this show. It stars a bunch of weird, wild puppet characters, and it's about them putting on a variety show of questionable quality out of their grungy old theater, chronicling all the ill-fated skits, interpersonal drama, and mayhem that occurs in the production of said variety show. Maybe there's a frog in it, and the star of the show is a diva with a taste for drama and sweets who's in a weird relationship with the producer, and there's a blue guy who fucks chickens. The Muppet Show? What's that? No, the show I'm talking about is actually a movie, and that movie is called Meet the Feebles, written and directed by Peter Jackson, who you may know from directing the Lord of the Rings movies. In the movie, Meet the Feebles is the name of a variety show television program starring the titular performing group, the Feebles. Each week, against all odds, this crazy crew scrapes together a program despite the fact that their producer is a drug-dealing, murdering, philandering walrus. Their star is a perpetually abused and demeaned hippopotamus stuck in an entertainment industry nightmare. Everyone else on the show seems to be a sex-crazed drug addict, and the whole nasty affair is constantly on the verge of being exposed by a muck-raking, tabloid-reporting fly. But there are some pockets of innocence in this dark world. Robert the Porcupine is a new cast member on Meet the Feebles, though unbeknownst to him, he's joined the show on what will be its final week. Robert is a big fan of the Feebles, and though he quickly finds that the behind-the-scenes culture of the show isn't what he expected, he also finds love in the form of a poodle chorus girl named Lucille and a friend in Arthur, the show's stage manager, a worm whose greatest sin is that he's clueless and ineffective in the face of the sin and depravity that surrounds him. The man responsible for this toxic mess of a show is Bletch, the aforementioned drug-dealing walrus producer who's only in the television game for the money and the cover it gives to he and his cronies' drug-dealing and porno producing, porno that they make by taking advantage of chorus girls like Lucille. Heidi the Hippo is a star of the Feebles, discovered by Bletch at a young age and abused by him and the entire cast to the point where she's but an anxiety-addled shell of her former self. Heidi's issues all come to a head one show night when she catches Bletch with another woman, a discovery which, on top of an already disastrous night of botched performances and copious amounts of vomit on stage, sends her into a spiral which ends with her turning a machine gun on the rest of the cast and crew that tortured her for so many years. When the smoke clears, only a handful of Feebles remain, including Robert, Lucille, and Arthur, who are left to pick up the pieces of their lives after confronting the true darkness lurking in the puppet soul. A lot of other stuff happens too, like a whale gets a car driven through his butt. Yeah. A spider bites a guy's head off. The fly eats a lot of poop and stuff. But this is a hard movie to sum up, kind of.
Yeah, when the longest continuous scene in your movie is a Vietnam flashback for a side character, makes the movie a little hard to summarize.
I actually really liked that part, except for all the racism, which is a big except for, but that part worked for me.
I think my biggest takeaway from this movie is that Peter Jackson had too many ideas.
I think all young filmmakers have too many ideas, right?
Yeah, and I think that often comes to a head when it's like, okay, this is my one shot to put these into a movie. So I got to put them all in the movie.
Yeah. I read it was supposed to be a TV show.
Yeah. I watched an interview with Peter Jackson where he talked about it was going to be a short film. And then
two very opposite sides of the spectrum of length.
Yeah. But basically it was going to be something else. He had some other ideas and he kind of shelved it for a while and wanted to make some of his other films. But something about those, I think they were maybe bigger budget or something. He couldn't get those made. And so he dipped back in and was like, what about this Feebles idea I had? What if we made that instead?
I feel like a puppet thing is something that you start and then you're like, dear God, what have I done?
There was also, I watched this mini documentary thing. It was called Sex, Drugs, and Soft Toys, the making of Meet the Feebles, which is not, it's not that much of a deep dive. The funniest thing about it is that everyone is talking so seriously about making this movie, and they're like standing next to the big naked Heidi puppet in her lingerie and talking about costume design and all this stuff. And it's just sort of fascinating to watch how they're discussing it. At one point, Peter Jackson quotes Hitchcock and like sort of compares himself to Hitchcock.
Wow. Okay, I gotta watch this.
Well, I guess there's a Hitchcock quote that's something like, some people make movies that are slices of life. My movies are slices of cake. And he's like, so I kind of think I'm like that.
That makes sense, I suppose.
Yeah, which, 28-year-old Peter Jackson, I see where you're going with that. Notable also, this is the first movie that Peter Jackson would co-write with his future wife, Fran Walsh, who has gone on to also co-write all of his other films, including Lord of the Rings. So these two people, Peter Jackson and Fran Walsh, wrote and made Meet the Feebles, and then later on would go and win Oscars for Lord of the Rings.
I could not see any DNA in common between these two things.
No, this feels like a different man. made this movie.
Yeah.
I will say, I think that behind the scenes featurette is worth watching because you see, I mean, as somebody who went to film school, you see a lot of the chaos of being on a set and just things not working, things falling apart, things breaking, and him just having to like take it in stride. And it seems really like making a movie by the seat of your pants, like come what may, kind of thing. They also show a few of some of his short films that he made when he was a kid in the documentary, which I know I've also seen on the King Kong behind the scenes thing. Another wild thing to connect. The same man made those two movies, Feebles and King Kong. They call Bad Taste his first assault on the cinema-going public, which is a great way to refer to a man's movies.
One of the trailer or the taglines for the movie was "From the man who brought you bad taste comes a movie with no taste at all."
That's very good. There's a one of the Bad Taste creatures is in the audience at the Feebles
and it's
show.
Peter Jackson in the outfit.
Oh, really?
Is what it says. It's at least what it says on IMDb.
He also says in that behind the scenes that he doesn't like making shocking or violent films.
He just has to. Somebody's making him do it.
He says that's basically to him his sense of humor is things that are so shocking and awful that they make you laugh. And so he wants to make funny movies. And the way he can think to do that is to make them shocking and violent. But he doesn't like shocking or violence.
That doesn't make any sense at all.
No. We learn in that behind the scenes that Mr. Big, who is a whale, takes 6 people to operate. This whole thing was shot inside of a railway shed in New Zealand.
Like the whole movie?
Yeah, they like built all of the sets. There was even parts where, and I'm sure this was one of those cheap movie things that was really frustrating at sometimes. They'd be building a set over here while they're filming a different set on the other half of the railway shed. And then when they were done with that, they would tear down those sets, go film in the other half, and start building sets in the new half. So
loud. Well, it was all pre-recorded.
Yes,
so,
and they also, the producer brain in me goes, oh, but what if you need reshoots? And it goes, well, we already tore the set down, so you can't. But yes, what you just said there is all the dialogue in this movie was pre-recorded, unlike Muppets, where the performers have a microphone and they're performing the lines while they're puppeteering. We do get lip syncing occasionally with songs, but for the most part, the performances when they're not singing are all recorded on set. This was all pre-recorded dialogue in a studio, and then on set they would play back the audio and the actors would react and try to like match the lip sync.
Man, that must have been miserable. I feel like that would have sucked.
Yeah, well, Peter Jackson says he kind of made this movie twice because of that, that he sort of had to put it together with just dialogue alone and then sit there and like picture in his head what it was going to look like and then go to set and actually make that movie.
Yeesh.
But yeah, they show a few cool things. Like they talk about the making of the stretch limo model that they had to make for some of the scenes where it was going to be a smaller version of the stretch limo. They also show that they didn't have any monitors for the puppets. Like the puppeteers didn't have anything to see their performance, what they were doing. And so he talks about how basically something you hear a lot of people talk about when first-time directors work with Muppets is they don't know how to work with puppets and certain things go wrong. And so he talks about things like that where he learns that at certain angles, puppets don't look like they're looking at each other or they just look terrible from certain angles. And so you have to reshoot it and cheat it and move them around a little bit to get them to look convincing on camera. And also talks about the thing that we've heard multiple times where getting puppets to do the small, simple things like open a door and cross a room is harder than having, a puppet explode or jump off of a ledge or these things.
There's really none of that kind of trickery. All the people who are picking stuff up are just the full body guys, at least from what I can remember.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, getting into this movie, the fabulous Feebles Variety Hour is the show that they're putting on with a unfortunately catchy theme song.
It's been stuck in my head. Oh my gosh.
Every time you said Meet the Feebles so far in this episode, instantly my brain goes, Meet the Feebles. And I'm just like, oh God, it's there again.
So it's so evil too. It's such an evil version of the Muppet Show song. The key is just like, it's just off.
Yeah, it's just upsetting, like in a way that you can't really understand when you're listening to it. All the songs in the movie, like even the ones that sound 100% sweet and innocent, you're like, yeah, but something is about to happen. I can just feel it in my soul.
I actually really like the last song, the Garden of Love song.
Mhm.
It's a good song, but it is like a Twin Peaks,
Yes, precisely.
there is evil on the horizon that no one is fully aware of, but everybody can feel. I also think this movie looks pretty good. Like,
Well, and I think it's inconsistent, which is interesting. There's some scenes that look very cheap and on the fly, but then you have the shooting spree scene at the end that is shot like The Godfather for some reason. I mean,
yeah.
I think also very purposefully like The Godfather because you have this performance happening with Sebastian on stage performing, cutting back and forth with the shooting scene, and it's very much like the baptism scene in The Godfather. It like there's a lot of slow motion utilized in that, and the lighting looks very good. And
yeah, the lighting's good in this movie.
yeah, and the version we watched is on YouTube. It says 4K restoration. I don't know who did this restoration. I don't know if it's just AI upscaled. If it is, it looks good.
Yeah.
A lot of AI upscaling you'll see has like weird artificial sharpness. There's a Muppet Family Christmas version out there that has 4K upscaling that you can tell is 4K like AI
this
upscale.
still looks like it was filmed on film.
Right.
It's
and
not,
I am curious. I found an interview with Peter Jackson where he was talking about wanting to restore and re-release a lot of his early movies. And he specifically mentioned Feebles. But as far as I know, there's not an official, at least not in the U.S., official like restored release of this film. So maybe this is like a pirated, leaked version or something because it does look surprisingly good.
Yeah, I think the fact that there's so many easy to find versions of this movie on YouTube means that there must not be any kind of re-release of it. There's nobody who's caring to make any money off of this movie, which is kind of surprising.
I mean, New Line Cinema, who made Lord of the Rings, is probably like, please don't like associate your name with these things. We like you being the Lord of the Rings guy.
Honestly, The Frighteners is the one that is more to me like the same person wrote both of these. Like, because that movie's so crass in a way that this movie is extremely crass, but that movie is like who's Big Daddy?
Adam Sandler.
Adam Sandler. That movie's like an Adam Sandler movie. Like one of the ghosts like has sex with a mummy, and you see like his butt thrusting out of the tomb or the coffin or whatever. It's just more like stupid than this movie.
Do you think there was any of that in Lord of the Rings that they had to like, hey, Peter, stop it?
They just let him film it all and then they edited it out later.
Yeah, he's like, no, I really have a 6-hour-long director's cut that they won't let me release.
Yeah, they all have turns having sex with
the ring.
With the ring.
They're just disappearing, reappearing as they have sex with the ring.
Man, that's such a good idea. We need to go back in time and tell the Farrelly brothers that idea.
Oh, I mean, to be fair, that could easily be in one of their, superhero movie, stupid movie, epic movie. Yeah.
If it's not, they're kicking themselves when they hear this episode.
Yeah. Dedicated fans, the Farrelly brothers, actually. But yeah, overall, I think aside, like, there's a lot of crassness. There's a lot of things meant to be shocking and stuff. So at a certain point, to me, that stuff got a little boring because I'm like, oh, what a surprise. They're having sex again. But I think my biggest issue with the movie is more of the lack of connective tissue or resolution to some of the ideas and the scenes. And there's a lot of this happens, then this happens, then this happens with no driving force of this is happening because that happened or because this happens.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of ideas too that get dropped in where you're like, okay, is this the plot of the movie? And you're like, nope.
The whole drug dealer thing that ends with Big Daddy the whale, that was a plot line where I was like, I'm so bored of this. Like, I hate all of these guys, but even beyond that, like, this is taking away from the parts of the movie that look better and are more interesting. And I don't need this.
Well, and I think one of the issues with that is that they drop so many ideas like that, and then they go away from it for literally 25 minutes in the movie. And then they bring it back up as if it's just like picking up where we left off. And you have so much to remember of like, oh, we're coming back to that? Okay. I had kind of moved on, but we're back here. Okay, I'm going to catch up. And okay, now it's over. Like, there's so many minute-long scenes in this movie that happen 25 minutes after the last part of that story.
Yeah, you don't see Robert and Lucille for a good long chunk of time.
No, there's like, I wrote down some of those because there's literally 25 minutes between some of those story beats. And you're like, oh, I thought that was maybe just done. I thought maybe we weren't coming back to that because there's also an equal number of things that do happen where you're like, oh, okay, this is going to be interesting.
There's a big monster in the basement that eats corpses that you only see once, and that's like that's like one of the best parts of the movie. I want to know more about this guy.
Yeah, it looks like something out of Star Wars. Like it's very much maybe the best looking puppet out of all of them.
And it feels so much like something that we would have joked about while we were watching the Muppet Show. Like, what do they do with all these dead bodies? Like, drag them down the basement, throw them into the big cookie monster that lives down there.
Yeah, I have two questions for you.
Okay.
One, what do you think of the puppets themselves? Not necessarily the puppeteering, because I don't think they had actual puppeteers, at least across the board, being hired to do this. But like the look of the puppets.
Are you going to ask me both questions?
Yeah, might as well, I guess.
Okay.
And two, how close do you think this comes to where we've gone in some of our episodes of Commitment of dragging out our headcanon of what happens to certain puppets?
Okay, so I guess to answer this first, the second one first, I feel like maybe our conversations around Marvin Suggs have gotten the closest to. Like he could be here.
Yes.
And he would not be out of... I mean, he would start knocking people's heads off with a hammer. He'd be like, this is what I've been waiting for my entire life. You guys can die. The Muppets can't die. I've been trying to kill them for so long. I think like there've probably been pretty dark Marvin Suggs conversations we've had.
Yeah, I think like ours is a tame in between version of the Muppet Show and Meet the Feebles sometimes.
Yeah.
But
and sometimes there's like an obvious conclusion, like when Beaker had all those clones. It's like they ice picked all those clones. They threw them.
There's a reason we don't see them anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think we've really talked too much about like gun violence.
No, we tend to avoid that.
Yeah, or them making pornography. We haven't really talked about that too much.
No, I think
we said some nasty things about some of these sweet puppets, but that was more just my own personal predilections towards Miss Piggy.
And I think the bar has also been raised for what nasty things said about puppets means now after watching this movie.
Exactly. And I would never say Miss Piggy would make a porno. Absolutely not. That's crass. But the other one, so I think some of them, like the one character that I really latched onto for some reason was the Fox director guy.
Yeah, Sebastian.
Something that's funny about this movie is that everybody's name is like John.
I know.
And it's so hard to remember everybody's
Trevor,
freaking names.
Louis, Robert, and Sebastian. Yeah. Like Sebastian is the weirdest name of any of them.
Is that the Fox guy?
Yeah. Oh, I guess Bletch is not a normal name.
No, but that one is easy to remember because that's the closest to like Gonzo and Fozzie and stuff. It's like there could be a Muppet named Bletch. Like that walrus could be in the Muppet Show. He could be J.P. Gross. That wouldn't be weird. But for some, I really liked his puppet, and I liked that their eyes moved and their eyebrows moved, and I thought some of them looked great. They looked like kind of elevated. It's not his name's not Herman Munster, but what's his name? Emmett Otter. Herman Munster's Jug Band Christmas would be a really good movie.
But the problem I imagine is that he is like a skyscraper to them.
Oh, he'd started. I mean, this would be a jug band of monsters.
Oh, okay.
From the Black Lagoon
I thought it was a sequel to Emmett Otter.
It would be the same exact plot, except it would just be them in their town and with his friends, Creature from the Black Lagoon, Invisible Man. They were like elevated Emmett Otter guys, which I thought was cool. But the big guys didn't work for me as much because you could just tell that they were like spandex stretched over a frame and their seams were really apparent. Heidi
the hippo,
looked okay.
Yeah.
I really don't like Bletch. Just like I don't like him as a person. I don't like looking at, but I don't like looking at him either. And the bulldog looked like shit.
Yeah.
The warthog looked fucking cool.
That was my least favorite, I think, character of them all.
Guy. I liked how he looked.
He looked
like Bebop from Ninja Turtles.
He looked like Bebop crossed with a terrible Power Rangers villain.
There's the scene where they're playing golf.
Yes.
And it's all the big characters playing golf. And that was the only scene where I was like, this looks so stupid. Like if somebody walked by, I'd be like embarrassed to be in this big
Imagine
costume.
Being at the golf course that day. And you're like, hey, can we play through? I don't know what this is, what's happening right here, but I'd like to play through.
Yeah, but you're some menacing characters on the course that day. So they look bad in that scene. They needed to be playing poker or something during that part, maybe.
Yeah, golf is
In
a bizarre
dark
thing
room.
to, hide a drug deal. Because again, so that whole scene, in that scene at first, because there's, for some reason, they have a couple of golf scenes. And the first one is just them golfing and having a good
Yeah.
time. And I'm like,
They seem like they're having a nice
why
day.
is this
Yeah.
scene here? It's actually one of the few scenes that actually made me laugh out loud.
Uh-huh.
Because Cedric, the weird warthog man, when he first is golfing, he's Scottish, and he just yells, "Take that, you bastard!" the first time when he hits the ball. And then when they're just walking at the end of that scene, he's like, "I'm tempted to join the club myself." And Bletch is like, "No chance of that, I'm afraid, Cedric." And he's like, "You mean they discriminate against Scots?" And he says, "No, we just don't like assholes at the clubhouse." But that was like, that scene made me laugh, and I was like, why did it happen, though? And then later on, they come back and they're like, "Oh, it's a secret drug deal. You've got drugs in your golf bag. I've got money in my golf bag. Let's do a swap." But like, you could have done that anywhere.
They could. It is funny. I didn't even think about this. It's not like there's like a scene that establishes like the police are on to them and they can't do it in the building.
Right. They're trying to be really secretive of like,
Yeah.
is anyone looking? Okay, come over here and check out my golf bag. And it's like,
Yeah. You could have come to my office with this. In fact, someone later does come to my office with the drugs.
right, that's the
so-
plan. Actually, after they like check out
Yeah.
the drugs at the golf course, he's like, "Cool, meet me in the alley behind our theater later on."
Yeah. A worse place to do a drug deal outside of the place where you work.
Yeah.
But, I'm not Bletch. I'm not a millionaire walrus. I didn't build a criminal empire. What do you think about the puppet? Like, I mean, I think Arthur looks horrible. I hate looking at him, but I also just hate him on principle. He's just like they're all, I don't know if this is the point of the movie, but like they're all bad, but he also is bad, Like, he's so judgmental and so like.
There's a lot of horrible things happening around him.
That's true, but he's just so quick to like victim blame in that one part, He's just so like not understanding. But some of them look like horrible little like baby freaks, like Arthur.
You mean Robert?
Robert.
Okay.
The porcupine.
I was like, what did
Robert the
Arthur ever
whole
do?
time. Arthur's great.
Arthur's the worm.
Yeah. The cigar smoking worm, who would also fit in on the Muppet Show for sure. But yeah, some of them are like, well, I guess now that I'm thinking about it, some really looked bad. Lucille looked pretty bad, didn't she?
Lucille looks like Helen Henny, the Chuck E. Cheese chicken.
Yeah, totally. She looked like Chuck E. Cheese, kind of.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, she just looks like she should be like an animatronic, just kind of dancing around. But I agree that there are some like Sebastian and Robert who sort of look like they could fit in the Emmett Otter world. Some of those like the background forest characters who get reused in the Muppet Show kind of level.
Right. Like Robert could be in Emmett Otter. I mean, not Robert. Sebastian could be in Emmett Otter being like, "You fools, this is going to be the worst talent show of all time."
Yeah, he would fit right in. I think the mayor in Emmett Otter might even be a fox.
I believe he is, yeah. And his wife, he's got like a no good wife, I believe. Who's
but yeah, I think it like Harry the Hare looks terrible.
Yeah.
Especially as he melts away later on. Trevor the Rat is okay. Trevor the Rat doesn't look too bad.
Another Emmett Otter kind of guy.
Yeah. But yeah, I think the big suit ones, Heidi the Hippo and Bletch, Barry, Sydney the Elephant, they all look pretty bad. I think much like we talked about like Sopwith the Camel, where you could just see the human shape involved in making that puppet work.
Yeah.
That's how all of these feel, is you just see the human in there who does not convincing, like the performers don't move any differently when they're in those suits than they would if they weren't wearing those suits. It's just a man running down a hallway, but happens to be wearing a hippo suit.
The only difference is that maybe the head's a little heavier than they're used to. The bulldog especially just looks like a guy in a spandex suit.
That's like a
with
high school
big
mascot
bulldog.
costume.
Exactly. I was going to say, yeah. A great high school mascot costume, but
Right.
not great in other contexts.
There's a couple things, though, I will say I was impressed by in watching this. And again, one of those things where they leaned into certain details, I would be even more impressed. Right off the bat, their announcer for Meet the Feebles sounds pretty close to Jerry Nelson's like veterinarian's hospital voice.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
There are certain parts where it felt like they're like tapping into that Muppet Show thing. But then there's so many times that they just get away from it enough that you're like, oh, so this isn't really like the Muppet Show. And even having, Heidi the Hippo be kind of a Miss Piggy but then not really having a Kermit or not really having like, I guess, the avatars for other characters on the Muppet Show. So it's not really clearly defined who, like what your tropes are that you're trying to sort of parody.
Or even if that's what they're trying to, like,
Right.
Just a split between there is a very clear Gonzo and there's a very clear Miss Piggy, and the rest of them are so far removed. Like I suppose the frog guy is supposed to kind of be a joke on Kermit the Frog, but he's just so different than, like, he doesn't fill the same role as Kermit, so it's just like, is he just a frog? Then it just seems like he's a frog accidentally. Like they were just like, this one's a frog.
Well, and I think there's two main frogs on the show. Neither of them really look like frogs.
Is the offensive piano playing guy a frog as well?
Yes, the seemingly Rastafarian themed frog that they put on piano. Right. And then the one with substance abuse issues.
Who has the extended Nom flashback.
Yeah. I was not laughing at, by the way, his substance abuse. I was laughing at the concept of a frog puppet with substance abuse disorder who has Vietnam flashbacks.
Who has PTSD.
Yeah, a wild, wild moment in this. Weirdly enough, though, I do think he is maybe the most Muppety looking puppet. And also acts a little bit like Uncle Deadly. Like his voice and performance and the way he sort of has this like Shakespearean side to the way he's talking is like a little bit Uncle Deadly.
I wasn't sure what kind of accent they were going for.
Yeah, he's supposed to be apparently an American soldier, maybe, in Vietnam.
Yeah.
But everyone has very different accents.
A little bit of a Christopher Walken thing going on. Maybe, yeah.
But yeah, I put in my notes about 3.5 minutes into this movie. I probably would have turned it off here. Because that's when Bletch the Walrus is having sex with the cat in his office. And
okay, but that's when I was a kid, when I turned it on, and I was like, okay, wait a minute.
I've never seen a walrus have sex with a cat before.
Well, she has nipples, so.
She should have a bunch, right?
I'm sure she probably does, but we just see the two.
We have sort of our protagonist in this movie is Robert the Hedgehog, who has a speech impediment, or he says Wobert instead of Robert.
Mm-hmm. This amounts to nothing.
Oh, no, not at
nobody even barely makes any fun of him or anything.
I think it's just supposed to make him seem naive and innocent. Like he's just like a little boy, essentially.
Was Bean Bunny, did he exist in 1989?
He would have, yeah. He was in 86, I think. So maybe this was
Bean Bunny literally could have been in this movie. Then we'd have a movie at our hands. Wouldn't that be something?
Have an actual Muppet meet the Feebles.
Yeah. And that's why he's so like, when everyone's mean to him on the Muppets, he's like, this is fine. I've seen some
I've seen some horrible things.
Okay. Yeah.
Another puppet that I think is interesting is the Fly puppet. They're sort of the Fleet Scribbler of the Feebles, who's just a paparazzi tabloid reporter flying around backstage, always trying to get the scoop.
And living in toilets, eating literal poop.
Yes, we see him just dining on a giant pile of poop. That is part of this movie.
And he is where the movie veers definitely into like, this is a horror movie. Like this man is horrible to look at. But he was that fly puppet is great, and they do some really interesting things with him. I love when he's developing pictures in the toilet tank. I thought that part was really good.
I also, some of the other genuine laughs I got from this movie is a horrible scene in context of when Bletch and Trevor decide that they're going to kill the Fly reporter, and they tear his wings off, and they tear his first wing off, and they say, "What do you know, boss? A left-wing reporter." And Bletch goes, "Well, we can't have a biased press," and he rips off the other wing.
I like that part too.
And while I say Robert is our protagonist, he also elicits some terrible behavior in this movie. Most notably, later on, the poodle that he instantly falls in love with, Lucille,
and gets engaged to
very quickly
in a day. It seems like to be a day.
Yes, I think it seems like it's maybe within 10 minutes of them meeting for the first time. They get engaged, but a little bit after that, he sees Trevor the rat Well, he doesn't see this part. Trevor the rat drugs and begins to sexually assault Lucille. Robert comes in the midst of that and sees the champagne and sees Trevor on top of Lucille and goes, "Oh, you drink and you have sex with Trevor? I hate you now."
Yeah. He's straight edge. He does make it clear earlier in the movie that he never does any kind of drugs or alcohol.
And although Lucille does try to explain herself immediately, he will hear none of it.
He just storms out. Horrible. I hate this guy.
Yes, this is one of those parts where I was like, oh, goodbye, protagonist.
Yeah.
That is one of those story beats that feels like it should be a bigger part of the movie. But that happens 53 minutes into this hour and a half long movie when they get engaged and when Trevor goes after Lucille and when Robert blames Lucy for Trevor's assault. Then, literally, again, 20 minutes later, we get back to the Lucille and Robert thing where Lucille's still trying to tell Robert again what actually happened. And he still is like, I will hear none of this.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, so you make me think that this like half a day for them has just been her trying to explain and him continually rejecting her.
I feel like at that point in the movie, maybe it's a little bit more real time though, you know? Because that is when you're watching Heidi unravel also.
True.
And that seems pretty linear. So I guess I would say that maybe she's kind of the protagonist of the movie, is Heidi. Like all the plot lines do converge on her.
Yeah, if there's anything carrying this movie, it is Heidi. But again, there are moments where she disappears for 25 minutes.
Yeah, and she's not much of a character, really. She also gets kind of an interesting flashback, which is something I did like when I was like, they got this one over on the Muppets. I liked seeing all of their backgrounds because it made me care. I mean, obviously, made me care about the frog and Heidi way more to be like, you've really been through the shit. I understand you deeper. I guess I don't need to see Gonzo's war flashbacks, but maybe have a bit more consistent, like, this is who I am.
Yeah.
Would make them a little easier to latch onto sometimes.
Yeah. But that was another point that I put in my notes where it's 21 minutes in the movie when Heidi starts to feel sad after her performance and looking through her scrapbook, eating cake, getting real gross and sticky. Yeah. And then we start to see a flashback through a picture in her scrapbook where she's a lounge singer. And this is the moment when Bletch discovers her. It turns out she is 16 and he's flirting with her a lot like a creep.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. But the scene itself is pretty straightforward. And there was a part that made me laugh, I think unintentionally, but this whole scene is in black and white. And they say, this drink's from the guy with the red carnation. And they show a picture of Bletch. And I'm like, it's in black and white, guys. You can't see a red carnation.
That does seem like something that would be accidental, yeah.
But yeah, that was like, because we see that backstory and because we see Heidi being the one who has any sort of emotional arc, even if it does go from sad to suicidal to murdering everyone. There is an arc, but we don't see Heidi again until 50 minutes into the movie. So 25 minutes later is when she goes to the bakery to replace the cake that she ate in that scene. And she just eats everything in the bakery and disappears again for a while. So that, again, like that's my biggest issue is like, obviously the gross out shock stuff is not for me, but the structure of the movie part of it is more of just like things come up, things go away. Things come up, things go away.
Yeah. As you talk about this, I just keep thinking that the way they handled the drug dealing aspect of the movie is kind of what drags it down. And those are the parts where, especially like the conclusion of that, where I was just like, I don't care. I understand. I get it, but I don't want to see these people doing stuff. There's more interesting people that are doing stuff. Yeah,
we get random, scenes of Heidi out for a jog for some reason.
Oh, yeah.
Which she's like listening to a motivational tape about jogging, I think.
It just says, run faster.
Keep running. I assume you're still running. So yeah, there's just a few random things like that I think are, we're connecting to Heidi because look at her journey. But in reality, it's just a random scene of her running. There's a weird disco ball fish at one point who wants to audition for Bletch. And as the disco ball fish starts dancing and singing, Bletch goes, yoink, and eats him. Which you would think wouldn't come back up. But it does, because later on, when they're on the golf course, Bletch just randomly vomits, and the fish was in
all
there.
over the warthog guy, which I think is maybe is that like what sets off the "we hate each other now" thing? That he barfs on him.
I don't know. The vomiting seems to not be important, other than just to be like, hey, remember the fish? He's back.
Yeah, and that's like one of the parts where it really like seems like this is a parody of the Muppets, which I think works a little bit less good. Like when Arthur smushes all those little Muppaphone kind of creatures
Right.
with the barrel, it's like, oh, this is also like, this is what it would be like if the Muppets were twisted.
Right. Like we see Muppets eat other Muppets all the time, but we don't see them puke them back up, and we see them
They
smash.
just show up again later, and they're okay.
Right. So yeah, it's odd that those things feel like one-off jokes and not the whole hook of the movie. Like for instance, when the little Muppaphone type guys who are just gross, they're just peeing and puking all over the place in one of the dressing rooms.
They kind of made me laugh because that was when any of the guys were peeing, it would gross me out so bad. I think because their pee was just such a nasty color. Sydney peeing is not a good part of the movie.
The Muppaphones, they're kind of like the aliens in Men in Black, where they just like they're like taking over,
like the worm guys.
I guess everyone in Men in Black is an alien, so that's not a great thing. But you knew what I meant.
The worm,
the little wormy guys, but they were just peeing and puking everywhere, taking over this, and so they get kicked out, and then they accidentally get run over by a barrel, and just squish into piles of guts in the hallway.
Yeah. And then the rat guy picks one up and starts eating one.
Yeah, and this was I think this was one of the first moments where I was like, is this going to become the plot? Is this like a Sweeney Todd? He's going to start to develop a taste for flesh and become a cannibal? But
no, it's unimportant.
Yep. We have, I think there's been a couple times you referenced the gonzo of this, and I think we have 3 gonzos in this movie.
Okay, wait, let me think about this. So Sydney, I say, is the gonzo because it seems like they built this elephant, he had the big nose, and they said, hey, that guy looks like Gonzo. So they put a Daredevil costume on him for a lot of it, and also it's like the logical conclusion of having sex with a chicken in that they have a freaky mutant baby chicken elephant. And Camilla basically is suing him for alimony. Not alimony, what's it called? Child support. So he, to me, is just Gonzo. Like, that is another, like, disconnect in the movie a little bit where it's like, this is so direct. But who else is Gonzo?
I feel like the knife thrower could be a little bit of a Gonzo. His knife throwing act is such like a daredevil-y thing. That feels a little Gonzo.
The frog. That's the frog with PTSD.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we have the guy with a penis nose.
The aardvark who loves to sniff the underwear.
Correct.
Right. I forgot about him.
To me, that seems like they were thinking, hey, Gonzo's nose kind of looks like a penis. What if it was?
I mean, I guess he literally does. Oh, yeah. He ejaculates out of his nose. I forgot
kind
about that.
of. I don't.
Yeah.
We don't need to get too into it, but it seems to come out of his mouth more than his nose, like he's drooling it.
Yeah.
But regardless, his nose does seem to be a penis. Although,
and they do make a porno where he has sex with his nose.
And they also reveal that he has another penis where penises usually are.
Do you see his penis?
I think you do.
Okay. There were honestly some parts of the movie where I was like, I don't know what I'm looking at here.
Yeah. I think they pull down his pants and are disappointed in what they see.
Yeah. So he's the guy, we're all over the place,
fine.
but he's the guy whose face melts at the end of the movie because the drug dealer Warthog has given them borax instead of coke,
right.
I guess, to kill everybody. And then they make him do it and his face melts. That part I was like, this is the Scooter. Because Scooter's a little craven freak.
If they're going to have anybody be the tester for their drugs, it would be Scooter.
Yeah. Well, he comes in and he's like, hey, boss, I got some contracts for you to sign. Classic Scooter behavior.
Although this is a character who I have no idea what his job was previously, but they just loop him into the shooting the porn because he's a creep.
I guess that brings me to a thought I had, which was I did want to see a little bit more maybe on stage stuff because you don't really see too much of it.
Well, and it's surprisingly straightforward when you do. You get an opera scene where Barry the Bulldog, who we saw as like a driver and assistant to Bletch, suddenly is singing opera.
Like a great opera singer, yeah. When does he have time to do all of these things?
I mean, I think that fits in with Muppet Show stuff, though, is where you see suddenly it's like, oh, I'm going to put on Camelot or whatever. But that scene is there just for Sebastian to get mad at Robert.
To hate Robert.
Because Robert's trying too hard. He researched his part and he's like, a flag holder and he keeps moving around when he shouldn't.
Robert is being really annoying.
Oh, absolutely.
But then I think like the Garden of Love stage scene, it's like nicely, I don't know, it like looks nice and they did a good job with that part, I feel like.
Yeah.
And
it feels a bit like the Blue Bayou
kind of like,
part with Linda Ronstadt on the Muppet Show.
Yeah. And it is kind of like the like taking it to the extreme of like, well, if Miss Piggy really fell in that pond, she'd be really sad and everybody would make fun of her.
I was going to say, yeah, like it takes things to their natural conclusion, but it usually goes beyond the natural conclusion.
Right. And the Muppet Show does that anyway. And there were other parts where I was like, this is just like the Muppet Show already is a parody of stuff. So sometimes it's not as effective when like, oh, the fan's blowing too fast and all the guys are swinging around. It's like, that's just literally what would happen on the Muppet Show. Right.
That reminded me, like that one does feel almost like a Muppet Show sketch because if you remember, there's a Sam and Friends singing in the rain clip that we watched forever ago where there's like a little girl sock puppet who's singing and the record starts to pick up and the rain starts to pick up and she eventually just drowns at the end.
She's like drowning. Yeah, right.
And this felt like that sort of thing where, but like, yeah, back in the day when Jim Henson wasn't afraid to actually just kill off characters.
To kill his guys, yeah.
It's also weird that like the setup for that is this is after Heidi has eaten the entire bakery. And so what leads to the problems is that she keeps belching.
Yeah, that was weird. She had like acid reflux or something.
I guess so.
Do you think Jim ever saw this movie?
I thought that probably 10 times while watching it of just like, what would Jim say about this?
I think he'd like it.
Yeah, I could see them like getting together, having a few drinks or whatever on a Friday night and just the Muppet Workshop watching Meet the Feebles.
I don't think this is the kind of I don't think it's the kind of thing he would do.
No.
But I don't think it's the kind of thing that he would have any like I think he had there's a darkness there, I think.
Well,
I don't think he'd have any objection to this movie existing.
Well, I'm very curious to see Happy Time Murders now. I have never seen that movie, but I do know there is some of this kind of stuff in there. I don't think it's as like quite as gory or sexual as this one gets.
Probably way less racist than this movie.
Yeah,
too.
Probably a lot less bodily fluids.
Maybe. Who knows?
I would assume.
Well, no, there's famously a scene in the trailer where someone is ejaculating silly string everywhere. But I guess that's not really a bodily
Is
fluid,
silly string a fluid?
I actually have no idea. I bet it's not. Anyway, you're right.
But yes, I'll be curious to see which one I enjoy more, Happy Time Murders or Meet the Feebles.
I would be willing to guess I will like this movie better than Happy Time Murders. But I don't know. Another question I have: do you think that there were people who rented this because they thought they were renting Meet the Deedles?
Well,
you remember that movie?
It seems unlikely based on the cover of both of them. It's like, okay, I got two surfer dudes, or I have a hippo with a machine gun.
That's true. But maybe if you're like renting it in a hotel room or something, you're like, I think I'll enjoy the Paul Walker vehicle, Meet the Deedles. Here it is. There was probably a couple people who said one or the other to people, and they're like, wait, what movie are you talking about? That horrible movie where Paul Walker's surfing.
That's the horrible movie in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I remember. I feel like there's a scene with a helicopter in that movie. Like they're on a cliff on a date or something like that, and the dad comes up in a helicopter. That's literally all I remember about that movie.
I've never seen this movie. I just remember seeing the posters and being like, the fuck does Meet the Deedles mean? I don't need this in my life.
Yeah, I remember the trailer. That's about it. But yeah, I mean, again, maybe it happened once because they are weirdly similar names. There's a weird moment where this is after Robert has gone to Lucille. He sang her a song. She is wooed by him and invites him into the dressing room. And so we're like, okay, I guess they're hooking up, whatever. And then several minutes later, we just cut to Robert pushing a box down the hallway.
Oh yeah,
And
that is weird.
it's just like they gave him busy work or something to do. He just couldn't be walking down the hallway for some reason. But he stumbles across a BDSM dungeon scene being filmed where a cow is being whipped by a grasshopper or something like that. It looks like a grasshopper. I'm not really sure. They don't specify.
Kind of bug or roach. Yeah,
He doesn't last very long in the movie because he gets sat on by the cow and then fed to the super cool big beast puppet that we talked about earlier. This is the point where Trevor the Rat is like, oh, for our secret pornography business, I need to get a new actor in here. And he goes and finds Dennis.
The underwear sniffing art.
Yeah.
You can't just say Dennis. Their names are all Dennis.
Trevor and Dennis hang out with Daisy and Robert. And, but right after that, which is sort of odd, is when we get into the opera number where Robert's trying too hard. And they talk about the knife throwing act because there was also the knife thrower who is on drugs, throws the knife directly into the assistant, killing them.
Oh,
and so then Sebastian's like, well, maybe we just use Robert in that knife throwing act because I don't care if he dies. And so it was very odd to have two scenes back to back where the plot point was, all right, we got to get a replacement in here. Get somebody I don't like.
That is weird.
Had they not happened back to back, I probably wouldn't have clocked it. But the fact that each of those scenes ends with, we need to get a replacement for that person.
This person died. We need a new person. What the hell? It's a weird movie.
It's a very weird movie, Sam.
It is kind of genius for the Fox to be like, I'm going to kill this guy with the incompetence of this knife thrower. I thought that was kind of a funny little plot.
Yeah,
point.
I think Sebastian is the best character.
I agree. I really like that guy, and I was relieved that he didn't die at the end.
Yeah, he
just lost an eyeball, I guess.
Yeah, he looks like he might die. They could have left it open-ended and you weren't sure if he died or not, but they clear it up in the credits. We do get a Dennis sex scene, which is really unfortunate to have to watch. Mm-hmm. And throughout this is about the time where the Harry the Hare plot line starts to creep in, where he's feeling sick at this point. He's puking into the toilet where the fly lives.
We've seen him have indiscriminate, raunchy sex also.
Yes,
at this point too.
Dennis earlier is creeping on Harry through the keyhole as Harry has a threesome with two other rabbits. And it turns out that unfortunately, it seems like what they're implying is that Harry the Hare gets AIDS through this process. They just keep calling it the big one.
The big one.
It's a wild subplot that runs throughout this movie. Maybe one of the only consistent subplots outside of Heidi.
Yeah, him and the fly, and they're kind of back and forth. That is the most.
Yeah, because the fly wants to write the juicy scoop, like, hey, one of the Feebles is sick with a sex disease.
Yeah, yet another thing the movie could have entirely been about.
Oh yeah,
but no.
This was another point in my notes when I said, is the sickness the plot? The drugs? The porn? The cannibalism? Just general terrible things?
Yeah.
And the answer is yes. The terrible things, that is the plot. Bad things happen to people.
That his duck doctor was also another character I could have done with a lot more of.
Dr. Quack.
Yeah. He looked so cool. He was like, so one thing that kind of bothered me about this movie was that they were all very straightforward animals. Like, and they weren't really that stylized. They were in a way, but they kind of all looked like, I don't know, like Looney Tunes characters a little bit or something. But the duck and the way that he was just like so scummy looking and his bill was kind of like, I liked him a lot.
He also sounds like somebody doing a Paul Lynde impression.
I like that too.
There's a lot of characters whose voices are pretty much just impressions. Trevor's was interesting because I couldn't figure out if somebody was trying to be French or Peter Lorre.
I think he was trying to be Peter Lorre, but a very light Peter Lorre. Like he maybe started doing real Peter Lorre and somebody was like, you got to back that up a little bit.
Or it was, hey, like you're from New Zealand and your Peter Lorre impression isn't that great. Maybe stop trying that.
Yeah. And he was like, no, I won't.
It should be noted that there's like multiple performers in this movie who go on to do bigger things. Like one of the main people who does voices for the characters is a Hobbit in the Hobbit movies.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like clearly still friends with Peter Jackson. So some of the, not
small
many
country, Matt, small country, you know?
Yeah, not many of the people who worked in this movie went on necessarily to do other big movies like Peter Jackson and Fran Walsh did, but he did bring some of them along with him. But yeah, we see Dr. Quack near the end of the movie call Harry to be like, oh, I made a boo-boo. By the way, you just have a case of bunny pox. You're not going to die.
Yeah.
which feels so unnecessary.
It really does. Yeah, bunny pox makes you melt into green goo and throw up everywhere.
Yeah.
You think everybody would know a little bit more about bunny pox if that were the thing that happens to you.
You wouldn't be terribly surprised that like these symptoms would be part of that, even though it does seem terrible to have bunny pox. Apparently, it's at least not deadly. But yeah, early in the movie, we do have the Vietnam flashback, which is full of violence and racism. And
The whole movie has a lot of really unfortunate looking puppets of racial caricature.
yes, they have a lot of caricatures. There's an Indian contortionist at one point.
Ugh, I hate that. That part of the movie should not be in the movie. I did not like that.
You didn't
That
like the
was-
part where he shoves his head into his own rectum?
No, that was it. Just verged too far into this is mean spirited, in my opinion.
Yeah. But during the flashback, it is truly wild that this is, I'm pretty sure, the longest continuous scene in this movie is a flashback for a side character who barely affects the plot of the movie.
Yeah, and that is another thing. I'm not sure if it was purposeful or not, but that's kind of a funny joke. Just like the concept of it is pretty funny.
I think it was that they just liked the flashback too much, and they were like, "Well, we can't cut this. This
Yeah.
is fun."
Yeah.
It's a whole thing. We get the flashback. We get
meet lots of characters.
Yeah, we get a whole. It's like a Predator like platoon where they're all like old friends, and I guess it's more like platoon now that I say that word out loud.
Yeah.
It's a lot more like platoon. But they come across a beheaded soldier, and the one thing is definitely does not make this scene better. It does not make the racist puppets excusable, but there is some very funny dialogue in subtitle form from the Vietnamese.
Yeah, they're like debating the
characters.
tenets of communism with each other.
Yes, but in a very like well thought out, argumentative way where they're just like having a very calm conversation. I don't think these are the words that are actually being said, by the racist caricature being done with these puppets. But the subtitle conversation was funny.
Yeah, they're presented as pretty reasonable, aside from the fact that
Yes.
Yeah. And I do like when they're torturing them, trying to brainwash them, and their blackboard says, Lyndon Johnson is a bad egg.
I know. Again, like screenshots of this or ideas from this in something else, like, would be okay.
Yeah. Like this is like a Muppet war movie. This is not too different than if they were just if they all completely lost their minds and said, let's make Muppet Vietnam. Like this is what that movie would be.
Yes. And I will say, we have seen plenty of examples from the Muppet Show of them doing racist caricatures.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think they've been racist in a way that is like, I think there are aspects of this movie of Meet the Feebles where they're being racist in a thoughtless, cruel way. But I think some of it they are trying to say something. I don't think the Muppets are trying to say anything when they have like their Chinese and Japanese characters and
The Indian contortionist felt like something that could have been on the Muppet Show.
Yeah.
But instead of his head going into his rectum, he would have just tied himself into a pretzel or something.
Right. But he'd still have just as offensive an accent because he's Brewster.
Right.
Basically.
Like that character, unfortunately, felt like he could have fit in on the Muppet Show.
Yeah.
Whereas most of these are so terrible in a way that the Muppet Show was not.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Vietnam
Weirdly, the Peter Lorre rat is the one who's the most also like, this guy could be directly lifted into the Muppet Show.
And I think that is probably because he looks and acts a lot like Stanley Weasel from the River Bottom Nightmare Band in Ebony Otter.
Yeah, he does.
Like he looks and acts quite a bit like that guy.
You know what else? I just remembered something. The frog, when he's having his flashback, he is wearing a mesh shirt, just like Convincing John and
I didn't even notice that.
And Uncle Gobo.
Yeah.
When he's sick in bed. So this mesh shirt thing, it must just supposed to be like a tank
Maybe that was
top.
big in the 80s.
But maybe lots of old men were wearing mesh shirts back then. If you're an old man, if you were an old man in the 80s, please let us know. We have to know what's going on with these mesh shirts. Did they make your skin all mesh looking when you were lounging in them?
Is it just a way to like not wear a shirt, but kind of wear a shirt?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, you want me to wear a shirt? Here you go.
You don't want to see my nipples? Okay.
But you will see his nipples.
Just if you looked really carefully.
They're very wide set mesh, just like a fishing net.
Yeah. His is less wide set. His is like if a Fraggle put it on, it would look like wide, but not on him. It's just a little wide on him.
Well, we learned that the way he escaped this Vietnam terribleness that he had was that the Vietnamese soldiers are making them play a game of Russian roulette, and he accidentally ricochets a bullet off a bunch of things.
He misses his
everyone.
head.
Yeah.
How do you miss your head?
It kills everyone in the room. His buddy falls in a hole, and he leaves him for dead.
His buddy who had saved him earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he runs away, and apparently ends up in a hospital and gets addicted to painkillers. Is this a fun backstory for this puppet?
But I enjoyed that part. I think in retrospect, that is, I don't know. It's like a good part of the movie.
I think much like the shooting spree at the end of the film, it shows more thought
That's
into
what
the
it is.
production of it.
Yeah. Like it's not a nice part of the movie. Or anything
It's not
that.
objectively good.
But they came into it, they said, this is what we're trying to do with this part of the movie.
Mm.
And then they executed it.
Yeah. But the flashback immediately cuts to a very graphic sex scene featuring Dennis and Daisy.
Yeah.
And this is where we are learning that they apparently make a lot of secret pornography. This is not just the first time, which is kind of, when they did it earlier, I thought like Trevor was doing something like under the table that nobody knew about.
No, Bletch is in on this, and it's too late for that to be revealed. I think that should have been
we are
revealed.
halfway through the movie at this point.
Yeah.
And this is when Bletch is deciding, you know what? The public is tired of big udders. So Daisy the cow needs to be replaced. Yet again, another character who needs to be replaced.
Mm-hmm.
Not because she died, though. And Trevor immediately sets his sights on the poodle, Lucille.
Yeah.
And that it's exactly what you said, Sam. In my notes, I said, okay, now, is this the plot? Because if so, it took too long.
We still haven't really settled on the plot yet at this point of the movie.
I mean, I don't think the plot really happens until like the last 5 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
Well, after the contortionist gets his head stuck in his own rectum, Sebastian kicks him down the hall like a ball. And this is when Sebastian goes to Bletch and complains about how the show is in shambles and he wants his song reinstated.
Yes,
And Bletch says, no, this is a family show.
We don't learn anything about what this is until it's a big surprise at the end of the movie.
Yeah. It felt like a producer's kind of moment or something where it's like this teasing this secret song that is so bad you can't perform it.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, that's what it is. Okay.
They were right. Yeah.
But it's interesting that Bletch says this is a family show because I'm pretty sure the frog says shit in the theme song at the very beginning.
Yeah, he does. And also, I think there is a point when they're actually putting on the show where someone dies, and I think everybody's like, hell yeah. I mean, I think everybody in this universe is okay with life is cheap in Meet the Feebles world.
Yeah, even the cruel, mean heads of the company kind of characters are obviously supposed to be like that. But even the regular characters aren't that concerned about maiming and killing. Yeah. Which, again, does kind of go back to the Muppets. But in the Muppets, everyone's fine at the end of the day.
They're not concerned about it because they know that they're all immortal. They all wish they could die. These guys can die. If you stretched Gonzo out in this universe, like in that one where he's getting a massage, rolled him up his like brain would shoot out of the front of his face. Nobody would like that.
Would be like, I think in the Vietnam flashback, we see a couple characters who like get their arms and legs like cut off or shot off or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's what it would end up to Gonzo is he would like literally just be drawn and quartered.
Yeah. They cut the guy's legs off and then they eat his frog legs.
That's right. Because he's a frog.
Because he's a frog. Yeah.
Well, after the disastrous belching Garden of Love scene is sort of when the plot actually takes off, which is, again, an hour into the movie.
There's 20 minutes left of the movie or something like that.
35, I think, at this point. Because Heidi goes to complain to Bletch of like, hey, I can't work like this. And this is when she catches Bletch with the lady cat.
That cat's head is disturbingly realistic. I don't like seeing that woman puppet body with that cat head. And just thinking about, I don't know, teeth. The teeth mostly is my problem.
Well, after Heidi discovers that, she goes and destroys her dressing room. Meanwhile, Harry's still trying to find the fly and kill him. And then Cedric's assistant, Louie, brings the drugs to the alleyway to meet Barry, something referenced earlier in the golf game.
I also love Louis. Louis is just such a horrible, bad puppet, but he's nondescript in such a fun way, and he's got kind of the crazy eyes and the crazy teeth. And I really like when they're at the golf course and Louis standing. There are some like cool tricks in this, like where Louis is standing next to the golf bag, and it's not really clear. Like there's like maybe a coat draped behind him, which is where the person is hiding. But just like you see all of these puppets a lot more than you ever see all of the Muppets. Like you see them full body in environments in a really convincing way.
Which is such a bummer because there's times where you see things that are so obvious. Like you see Bletch standing there with his walrus tail and you're like, I can see the like shoes of the man inside the walrus tail.
Exactly. Yeah.
But so often, and again, part of this is, the resolution of things is like the fly is flying around and you occasionally catch the strings reflecting light. But it's a very impressive puppet just flying around. And you see Sebastian standing in a hallway talking, and you're not really sure where the puppeteer is to make this happen. Arthur is another one that's pretty good because obviously they would have had to have a hole underneath wherever he is at any time because you see his worm body on the ground, but he's still being puppeteered. Yeah.
All of that's really seamless. Like now that I think about it, like I didn't think about the puppetry of it too much, except when,
which I think is
like,
a good
Lucille,
thing.
Oh, totally. Except when like Lucille was on screen and it was like, you look so bad. You're one of the main characters of the movie. Why didn't they do another pass on you?
I wonder if Peter Jackson still has all these puppets.
Oh, just like a haunted, horrible room.
Well, he has like a giant warehouse full of movie props that he's collected from other movies. And so I'm curious how many he has from his own stuff.
Yeah. They I'm sure they're somewhere at least. They probably didn't all just get thrown away.
Peter Jackson, if you're out there, give us a call.
Maybe we could get a Feeble as a guest on the show.
Which one would you most want and least want to talk to?
Oh, God. Most one is so hard. Arthur's just so boring, but I guess he's probably the least risky one to have.
You mean Robert again?
No, I mean Arthur this. Because he would have some stories, He gets knighted at the end of the movie.
He does get knighted.
So maybe Arthur. I would want Arthur on, I suppose. And least want any of them, really. But like the guy whose nose melts, I wouldn't want him. He's really craven.
Yeah. No. I think I'd want Sebastian on. We learned.
He'd have some great stories.
The end credits, he wrote a book that seems to be a fully fabricated version of this story.
He has a book to promote, so he would come on for sure.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think so many of them would be my least desirable guest on the podcast.
Most of them are all dead, though, so
that's true.
Wouldn't really be a risk of that.
But yeah, Louis does look a bit like those the spy puppets in the Roger Moore episode of the Muppet Show,
right?
Where he's just very fluffy and has sort of like this carnival stuffed animal look to him.
I believed him when he said he didn't know the drugs were laced too.
Did you? I didn't at all.
I did. He seemed shaken up.
Yeah, maybe he's not in on it. Maybe he's just like, he is the gopher.
Too low level, yeah.
Yeah, because, Barry is going to originally do a line of cocaine to prove that it's the good stuff. But Dennis comes in, and they're like, oh, this guy's way more expendable. Hey, Dennis, here you go, some cocaine for you. He snorts it and immediately starts to dissolve.
Yeah, and this is one of the parts that stands out in my head as I definitely saw this on IFC.
Oh, really?
This part, and it freaked me. I think I watched from here through the end.
Oh, so you just got the action.
Well, I got the beginning nipples, and I was like, "This is interesting," and then I was like, "This is kind of gross." And then I switched around for a while. Then I probably just ended up back on that end of the dial, back in the cable days when you were flipping channels.
He was like, "I'm gonna come back to this hippo, but it's gonna take a while."
Yeah.
Well, Bletch tests the cocaine and realizes it's borax, not cocaine.
And his penis nose melts right off his face.
Yes, Dennis's penis nose melts, shriveled up immediately. Louis confesses the real drugs are at the docks, and then they feed the borax to Louis, and they, just dissolve him into a Roger Rabbit green puddle.
So I guess their plan was to what, like the big boss or whatever, big man, Mr. Big, Mr. Big. His plan was to just like take their money and then re-deal the drugs to somebody else after they all did the borax and died.
It seemed like that, yeah. Like this was, he doesn't care about them, so they can die if they want to. Like from these drugs, or at least one person will die. But by that time that happens, his plan, I think, was to be gone, or at least have sold off all the drugs down at the docks.
Yeah.
Again, a plot that is part of a story, but is completely inconsequential.
Should it be part of this story? Who's to say?
It doesn't affect the show at all,
No.
or Heidi, or Sebastian.
It really doesn't. No.
Like, they just leave, do that, and then come back, and then the Heidi stuff happens. But, like,
Yeah.
that doesn't affect anything else.
Mm-mm.
Like, if it was like, this show wouldn't exist without the money we make selling drugs or whatever,
Right.
sure.
Or I need to pay off this executive so I can get our deal or something like that.
Right, like if they talked about the pornography business and the drug dealing as if that was what funds this wholesome family show, that could maybe be interesting.
Then you got something.
You almost have like a
Maybe,
Death to Smoochie kind of movie.
I've never seen Death to Smoochie.
Oh, that might
That
be.
surprises you?
Yes.
Oh, that might
I
be
feel like that's a
featured-
movie that younger Sam would have definitely watched.
I definitely was interested in it, but I just never got around to it.
We should watch that for a birthday pick or something maybe next
Okay.
year.
Maybe we should watch an episode of Barney and Death to Smoochie.
Back to back.
Yeah.
After they dissolve Louis, Bletch and Barry grab some weapons from their hidden cabinet of weapons, and they are going to go pay Mr. Big a visit at the docks. But in the meantime, Sebastian is calling off the show because Heidi won't come out of her dressing room. So Bletch goes to Heidi and immediately just falls back in love with him when he says that he wants to make love to her. After their little hookup, all the other Feebles are just hanging out in the hallway, waiting for them to
listening
finish.
and waiting. Yeah.
And once they do, Bletch comes out saying, "Somebody call the network. The show will go on."
Right. Because the network won't let him go on if Heidi's not on.
Right, because she is the big star.
Even though he does fire her immediately. Like, I don't think the network would like that, probably.
Probably not.
She does have star power. She's the only talented one in the whole thing.
But I
feel
think that's
like.
after he finds out about the big deal from Sebastian, that they're getting syndicated and all that stuff.
Right. But I would think that she would be part of that contract, you know?
You'd think so. Well, we cut to the docks, where Cedric, the weird warthog man, and a crab.
Just a giant crab man who's pretty cool, but also it doesn't follow really like, oh, I guess nothing follows the logic of what size the animals are really. Because
No, but the fact that there's like 8 different crab men
Yeah.
is a little odd.
Yeah. Also
they're
Power Ranger
standing-
bad guy looking guys.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. They're standing really close to a burning barrel. For people who are in presumably very
Extremely
flammable rubber
flammable,
suits.
yeah. Being torched, making Meet the Feebles dressed as a giant crab man. I wouldn't
Oh.
like that.
Worst way to go. Well, Trevor, Bletch, and Barry zoom in their stretch limo, just run that crab right over. And then they find some other crabs that they fight and stab and,
Ripped to pieces.
eventually-
and- yeah.
yeah. But eventually, Barry finds Cedric and stabs him right in the guts. And then suddenly there's a giant spider.
Yeah, the crane, that was kind of cool. The crane that they're using to load things is a giant spider using its webs as the cable.
But it's also weird that this is a normal world. Like you
Everything,
have
there
cranes.
is nothing else that's like Flintstone style except for this.
Right.
Yeah. And if I was a spider, also I'd be like, this is none of my business. I'm staying out of this one.
Yeah, I'm just gonna hang up here. No one will even know.
Yeah.
But instead, it drops down. It eats Barry.
Bites its
The
head
bulldog.
right off, yeah.
And when this was happening, I was like, "Oh wait, is that Mr. Big? Is the spider Mr. Big?"
I thought Mr. Big was just the warthog because I didn't catch his name ever.
Yeah, it was not clear who Mr. Big was.
Yeah.
This seemingly a new threat added to the film.
Yeah, they allude to him once before, I believe, but not in a way that's like, I just thought they were calling the warthog that as like, that's just his drug dealing name.
He's trying to get his nickname started. He's like, "Yeah, call me Mr.
Yeah.
Big. I don't like Cedric. Cedric's not a cool name."
Not cool, yeah.
So when the spider drops down on top of their limo and they take off, I was like, "Oh, this is like the big climactic
He is.
Mr.
He's
Big
big
battle."
This guy's big.
He's big. He's pretty big. But then they just drive the spider into a box and it dies. And I was like, "Oh, well, maybe that wasn't Mr. Big." And it turns out it's not, because Mr. Big is a whale who's hanging out in the water, which I guess is probably why he does business at the docks, because he can never be out of the water. He looks a little bit like the basement monster that they fed the grasshopper to.
Yeah, I was confused as to what he was and why he was.
I only know he's a whale because they said it in the behind the scenes thing I watched.
I only knew he was a whale because Bletch goes, "I'm covered in ambergris," which comes out of whales. But then they drive just right through him, and he's killed almost more easily than the spider. In fact, he doesn't even.
Yeah,
get
Bletch just
a
says,
killing, but-
take him out, Trevor.
Yeah,
And he's like, "Okay." So then he just drives into his
I
mouth.
think he's perfectly where his mouth could be driven into. There's nothing he could have done to them anyway. I suppose he could have free willied onto him, smashed him.
Well, and you would think, because he's like, hey, boss, should I go left or right? And he's like, go to the light. Apparently the light is his anus,
butthole,
which they just drive straight out of. But why would his anus not be in the water?
Yeah, Matt, I don't know. Great question. I didn't think of that.
It's the important question of our time.
Maybe if they had ramped out of his blowhole, that could have been cool.
Yeah, because I was thinking as they were driving down through this whale, I'm like, aren't you just driving down into the ocean?
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing, I suppose, but the ocean doesn't enter into the equation at all.
Did you hate this part, by the way?
I was going to say this part is like, yeah, I hate
You don't like things being eaten necessarily.
Oh, I didn't care about that. If it's just
okay.
No, I don't like when things are. I don't like when people are being eaten, like in Jurassic Park when that assistant's being eaten, and it's like, oh my god, horrible.
Well, I know that you talked about the scene in Nope.
Yeah, this didn't bother me because the people in Nope are like, I'm being eaten. These people were in control of their situation.
Like, I'm driving a car.
Yeah, if you drove a car into the Nope monster and then out the top of it, I wouldn't be scared of that. And it would be a great way to defeat the Nope monster. But
yeah, that Jordan Peele.
Yeah, you should have thought of a car. But I hated this part because it's not as extreme as the rest of the movie. Like it is so bland comparatively.
You could have had the inside of that whale be really gross and lots of ripping and tearing happening as they're shooting out the backside of that whale.
Yeah. Or just like the crab fight is just like, I don't know, they rip a crab's arm off, but we rip crab's arms off.
That feels pretty Power Rangers-y almost.
And
it feels like it could be a scene from Power Rangers.
Yeah, they could rip a crab's arm off because it's just a crab and we rip their arms off to eat them all the time. So that is not surprising. Or even Trevor stabbing the Warthog Man. Like something, it feels like the world of the theater in this movie is more disgusting and horrible than the thing that they go do where they're purposefully murdering a bunch of people. Like even the spider doesn't die that horribly. Maybe he just had some like goop knocked out of him and he's okay.
He does just sort of like headbutt a box and then
he just kind of
is left for
crumpled up,
dead.
I suppose, but I wouldn't trust that he was dead. So yeah, I hated this part just because it was like not trying as hard as the rest of it to be disgusting in a way that just made it seem like they were bored making this part too.
Well, and that feels like the whole drug subplot really could just be lifted from this film because the golf game's boring and weird.
Yeah.
The docks part is boring and weird.
Yeah. The people melting like the dip from Roger Rabbit, exactly, is the only interesting part of that plot. And it could have been resolved with melting the guy. Like he could have been the guy and he could have just
it could have also been the guy who we see shooting up in the bathroom and who has the Vietnam flashback. He could have been the one to get into the drugs and dissolve.
Yeah.
Because Trevor is already dealing drugs to him throughout the movie. Like that we don't need the backstory of how Trevor gets the drugs or who this drug dealer is and all this stuff.
Right. He's on stage melting, throwing his knives or something. Yeah.
Yeah. We already got the rabbit is melting. Why not have another frog melt?
Yeah. Everybody should just melt.
But yeah, back at the theater after the docs, they're coming back and they hear extra, extra, read all about it. Famous Feeble fights sex disease.
Like the cutest puppet in the whole thing too. Just like a little koala bear or something like that.
Something yelling out, selling newspapers. And we see that the show is ready to go on with a very large, robust, full audience of paper plates on sticks.
I love that. That was so funny. Just paper plates with panda bear faces drawn on them and like.
Yeah, they don't even look. I think I was reading. It might be on Muppet Wiki or some Wikipedia or something like that. Talks about how the audience is filled with cardboard cutouts, and I think that's a generous description.
Yeah. A paper plate, technically speaking, is a cardboard cutout, I suppose.
At the factory, they cut it into a perfect circle.
And then it's just a bunch of people who are like in shadow enough that you can't actually see that they're people.
And I think a bunch is also generous.
And they're clearly also
4.
all holding up one of the sticks with a paper plate on top of it. It's great.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, it's the cheapest. Like it looks so out of place cheap compared to the rest of the movie, which also looks cheap but smart cheap. This looks cheap, but like stupid.
I think you could have showed just like close-ups of a few different sections of audience.
Yeah. You know what they could have done? They could have shown humans in the world a couple times, and then at the end of the movie, they could have just put humans in the audience and maybe a couple monsters too.
Do we see any humans?
No, it says, and also on IMDb or somewhere, the only human in the movie is the contortionist guy, but he's not a human. He's just a puppet human. This is a purely puppet world, I think, is the intention.
Okay. Which is even weirder than that, Peter Jackson knows of the Feebles. And the Muppets have crossed over.
Oh, yeah, right. Maybe it was maybe the camera just happened to be there whenever there weren't people around. And I guess there's only Muppets in the Muppet Show audience generally, except in like the newer movie. So
yeah, where Zach Galifianakis is hanging out.
Yeah. Yeah. I do kind of feel for them too, because the Muppet Show has kind of like that. It's got like a fake theater, and they look like they're filming a real theater at that part. So they had more to fill out than the Muppet Show ever did.
Yeah, there's too many seats there. Like, if you can't make a full audience, maybe don't film in a real giant, multiple hundred people.
Zoom the camera in a little bit, maybe.
Yeah.
Or cut the paper plates into not circles.
We get the theme song again as the show starts up, just really cementing it in your memory that you're going to be singing at least the first couple lines over and over in your head.
Yeah.
And then Bletch says something that I was very confused about to his friend Arthur the Worm. He says, "This is a historic moment. Tonight, we rocket into superstardom."
Uh-huh.
And I felt like I missed something.
Like
there was a setup for like this was going to be the show that really sealed the deal that they're going to be superstars.
Right. But they never mentioned anything like that and already seem like they're superstars.
That's what I thought. Like, I thought this was already a very popular show.
Yeah.
And we're seeing the grimy underbelly of this really popular family show.
Because like Harry the Rabbit gets like and he needs no introduction kind of thing, and like pops out a big carrot. Their face.
Well, and if they're front page news, that one of them is sick.
In tabloids and stuff, right?
So yeah, it's
maybe
like,
they're
it's
just
weird...
New Zealand famous, and they're gonna be world famous.
Yeah, I don't know. It was a weird. It made me feel like I missed something.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and then it comes out of nowhere. It's just another plot point added in, crammed in indiscriminately.
Yeah, they just Heidi goes out and performs the same Garden of Love song that she was doing earlier. And this is apparently what seals the deal, because Sebastian comes in and is like, "Hey, boss, the network called. We got syndication. The critics are loving it." Mm-hmm. And it's like, they saw one song.
That doesn't seem like it would be Sebastian's job either,
He's a stage director.
He shouldn't be fielding calls from the network.
Very odd, especially mid-show. I guess he's directing the show. So it feels odd that mid-show the network would call him and be like, "Hey, stop what you're doing. Just want to tell you we love it." Well, after her performance and after Bletch's good news, Heidi surprises Bletch in his office and strips down for him.
Nipples and all. We see
nipples.
Of
course, because it's this movie, we have to see her topless. Yeah. And in this moment, Bletch is absolutely terrible to her, calling her old and fat, and tosses her out of the office topless. And she has a bit of a breakdown out in the hallway, where she keeps imagining that all the Feebles are around laughing at her, but they are not actually there. And she, loses it a little bit. I say a little bit. This does end in her going on a shooting spree.
Yeah.
Harry the Hare's act gets introduced, and he comes out looking terrible, as he has throughout most of the movie.
I thought, like, as unfortunate as this subplot was, I thought him coming out of the carrot with his green melting face was pretty funny. Like, blah. I like that.
I would have liked it more had we not expected it.
Yeah,
had there been some sort of like, we hadn't seen Harry in a while sort of thing.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they're like, Harry the Hare, and we are also in the boat of like, oh, he can perform. Yeah. He's feeling better.
And that last time we saw him, maybe he's a bit green, and then he comes out, fully.
Yeah, like melting and vomiting everywhere. So Sebastian sends Sydney the elephant out onto stage. This is a bit like, he's normally the gonzo. Here's a part where he's feeling a little bit like a Fozzie.
He is being a Fozzie, yeah. He's choking, doing the thing that he's supposed to be good at, vamping or something.
But he's mostly messing up because he really has to pee.
Yeah, he has to pee, and then he's also being confronted by the mother of his child, the chicken, and it feels like a lot going on in this one little section of the movie.
It's really like, hey, remember the chicken thing? It's back.
We have to introduce it because it's going to be important in a second. And also he has to pee. Why does he have to pee? Just so they can show him peeing?
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely. Okay. I assumed he was going to pee on the audience or on stage or wet himself.
Right.
because you don't, in this movie, introduce the idea that a character has bodily fluids building up inside of them and not show them.
Yeah.
So,
but it's much less inconsequential than any of the things you said. He just goes in the bathroom and pees.
all over a couple other puppets.
Yeah, but that doesn't really matter either.
No, not at all. They're just like, come on,
You're
Sid.
peeing on us. Yeah. In that kind of world where you got different people of extremely different sizes like that, I guess you would have to take into account.
Yeah, if you were
Your
peeing at a trough
situation,
next to a man who was 12 feet tall, you'd be like, oh, no.
Yeah, you'd need different, huge guy bathroom, medium guy bathroom, tiny guy
Yeah.
bathroom.
Well, while in the middle of Sydney being confronted by the chicken, we cut to the back where Heidi is writing a suicide note on her mirror, and there's a noose hanging in her dressing room. She attempts to kill herself, but instead falls through the floor. And, somehow in the middle of all this, we cut back to Sebastian dragging the frog out of the bathroom for his knife-throwing act. This is when Sydney goes and pees everywhere all over the bathroom on top of a couple other puppets, one of which says, come on, I gotta go out in an hour.
Yeah. Did he say in an hour? That's so long.
I think he said an hour, maybe
He'd
not.
have plenty of time to get cleaned up. How long is this show?
He's made of foam, Sam. That's just going to soak up that urine.
Oh, you're
He's going
right.
to smell bad forever.
You're right.
Because the noose didn't work, Heidi goes to Bletch's office and grabs a very large gun and attaches a string to the trigger and puts it right in her mouth. As she's about to pull it, the cat walks into the office
Nasty.
and says, don't let me stop you. Didn't mean to interrupt.
Horrible.
But it at least fitting with the characters.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
there's a character beat there that I'm like, oh, shit, she does suck.
Yeah, this part did elicit a bigger emotional reaction from me than a lot of the rest of the movie because it was understated in a very, like you said, a very believable way.
Understated, which most of this movie is the opposite of that.
Yeah, yeah.
And in that moment is when Heidi decides, you know what? I am not going to shoot myself. I am going to shoot this cat.
Yep.
And blows her away. And then on stage, the knife thrower throws the knife up in the air and gets himself in the head.
Right. This is a part where, and then the audience is cheering about it.
Yeah, they seem stoked, which maybe they just think it's like an illusion that
Oh, I suppose. I don't know. I think they're just a bunch of sickos too.
Paper plates love violence.
Yeah.
So Sebastian decides to save the show and decides to perform his own song that Bletch earlier told him he wasn't allowed to, all about sodomy.
Yep. Featuring props that look like butts and penises.
Yep. Kind of funny.
It was, and so this is happening while Heidi's shooting everybody. So it's the dramatic sound of that. It was funny. I thought it was a good song too.
Yeah, he kind of sounds like the Count when he sings.
Oh no, he does. Yeah.
And there are inflated condoms flying around like balloons.
Yeah.
But it is intercut with Heidi going on her shooting spree. It's shooting indiscriminately, which I feel is a little bit, goes against her character from earlier. It sort of seems like she was out for revenge, at least when it comes to Bletch and the cat. But I think this is sort of tying back to her idea that she felt like everyone was mocking her.
Right. Which is really only introduced. Oh, I guess people are casually cruel to her
Yes.
throughout the movie, but she really honestly doesn't interact with anybody else that much except for the rat guy and Bletch, who are both horrible people anyway.
Right. But she comes out on stage mid-show and continues her shooting of everyone. We see a couple of the Feebles escape certain death. Or at least in the moment, you think they maybe could have survived because we see so many puppets blown apart.
Their heads explode and stuff.
Yes, that you're like, well, that one's definitely not going to make it.
Yeah, Harry's done. He's not.
But we see Sid get shot in the knees and crawl over because the mother of his child, again, one of them that you see definitely die.
Yeah.
Because not only does her chicken head get shot off, but then he also crushes her head by stepping on it.
I remember that part very vividly from when I watched it on cable too.
And so he crawls over to be a father
protect
to
his
this
son.
baby.
Yes.
And so you assume at that point that okay, maybe he can survive.
They're not going to kill the baby, right? They don't.
it looked like they were gonna.
It does, yeah.
And I wouldn't have been surprised.
No, absolutely not. But yeah, this puts an end to a storyline that just barely exists in the movie.
Sebastian goes and hides in the carrot that Harry the Hare was in earlier, which gets shot off like a rocket, like it does in the show.
Capability, it has a rocket launching function. And
but he just kind of scoots 20 feet across the floor.
Yeah, and explodes a little bit.
Yeah, but not enough to hurt him in any way.
That's good too. He had a good triumphant night, even though nobody applauded for his song at the end, which was a good song. And he had all those props just waiting. I like that.
Right, yeah. Well, it seemed like he had done the song before. Based on him asking to do it again.
And then everybody was like, we can't.
So there was a big box back in the warehouse of like, all right, boys, break out the penis columns.
Yeah.
Heidi is about to shoot Lucille when Robert swings in and saves Lucille. And then Heidi turns her attention on Bletch, who is up in the balcony begging for her to stop. And he, of course, it does not work.
No.
She shoots the hell out of Bletch. And he tries to say he still loves her. But then he also tries to get to Trevor to shoot her.
Well, she does a little bit, right? She gets winged by the shotgun.
I think she might get winged.
Yeah.
But then this is when Robert swings in again, stopping Trevor.
He's swinging all the time.
Yeah. And then that's when Heidi blows Trevor apart before shooting Bletch in the head.
Great movie.
Yeah, good job, everyone.
I did like
notes.
the way that Robert woos Lucille ultimately as he sings that like flamenco song to her. I thought that was pretty good.
Under the Spanish moon or whatever.
I like that. That was cute.
It was cute. He's very cute. He does a couple, terrible things towards Lucille. But as we find out here at the end of the movie, everything turned out okay for them.
Yeah, they're fine.
We learned before the end credits that Arthur is still alive as well. He just kind of hung in the background and was like, please, no one kill me.
He mildly talks Heidi down or something. He's like, he says like, I'm going to have to call you in or something.
Well, to turn you in, I think. He's saying like, I love you, Heidi, but I'm going to have to call the cops.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, but please, can you play Garden of Love one more time before you do?
And she sings amongst the corpses, which is like an interesting part of the movie.
I agree. Her, again, a little character moment that feels very like legitimate for her to want to have this on the stage moment performing her song when she's been told repeatedly throughout that she can't be the star anymore.
Yeah. It's like the end of the Miss Piggy show where she destroys that stage,
Yeah. Again, character beats that I feel like it could be well done in some way, even in a violent movie. But just there's so much in there that's not well done that it takes away from any of those few moments that are.
Yeah.
But then the end credits pop up, and this was one of the other moments that got an actual laugh from me because I didn't expect to get credits saying where everyone ended up at the end of the day.
Yeah.
We learned that Sydney the elephant has purchased a small orchard, had kneecap surgery, and is now a horticulturist with his son Seymour.
That's nice.
We learned that Arthur the Worm, the stage director, has been knighted for his lifelong service to the theater.
Not something alluded to in the rest of the movie at all.
No. Yes, absolutely not. But he does seem like he's older than the rest of them.
Yeah.
And so maybe he has worked at this theater for 50 years.
Yeah. He just never does anything. So it's kind of hard to tell what he does. He's the stage manager.
Yeah. But he's the only one who is like, I think he's like reasonable throughout.
Yes, absolutely. He just smokes a cigar. That's the worst thing he does.
But he's retired to the country after being knighted. Sebastian, the fox, yes, he's a fox. He's the director. Apparently achieved worldwide fame for his bestseller, The Feeble Variety Massacre, One Man's Act of Heroism.
Great.
So clearly wrote a book all about how he saved the day.
He's negotiating film rights, too.
Yes. Robert and Lucille are married with 2 kids. He became a fashion photographer, and they don't mention if she got a job.
Yeah, their ending is boring and weird.
Yeah, just they got married, they have a couple kids.
Well, how did he become a photographer? He should have gone worked in an office or something.
Or a musician.
Yeah.
Or something. Because, there's no hint anywhere in this that he is into photography.
Yeah.
So, and the last one is Heidi, who somehow only served 10 years in prison
Yeah. Because
For-
life's cheap in this universe.
for murdering like 30 or 40 Feebles, and has been rehabilitated and works under a new identity at a checkout counter of a large supermarket,
Mhm.
which does align with what Peter Jackson said about a Feeble being in witness protection program.
Oh, yeah. You don't think he meant Robert and Lucille?
I mean, it depends on, I guess, in the timeline when these things are taking place. Because he said
Yeah.
2 of the Feebles are in witness protection and the rest are in prison.
Oh.
So maybe Robert and Lucille would be the ones in witness protection. But who would they be protected from?
Right.
Like, Heidi's the only bad guy in this that's
Yeah.
left.
And who else would be in witness protection? Maybe.
Arthur, I guess. But like Heidi knows Arthur turned her in. So yeah.
Peter Jackson, what the hell were you talking about? Please tell
I
us.
think it's more of the idea again that the Feebles are a troupe like the Muppets
Uh-huh.
who made a movie called Meet the Feebles where they all die.
Okay.
But the Feebles are actually out there. They could still be terrible. Like
yeah. They're
characters.
still
like, not
doing
characters.
crimes and puking.
Yes. They are still the terrible versions of the Muppets out there being horrible. So that it makes sense that they might be in witness protection or prison.
Sure.
But the events of Meet the Feebles is not canonical to the Feebles universe.
Right. But if it is, then at one point you could conceivably pan the camera around and the Electric Mayhem would be watching the carnage unfold, cowering in a corner.
Behind some paper plates.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that is Meet the Feebles. We did it, Sam.
We did it.
We had a spooky good time.
Ugh. I had a spooky time. It was a freaky movie that made me feel uncomfortable. So
I guess you mentioned at the beginning that there was parts of this that felt like Halloween or like a scary movie to you.
I
But
think
what
the fly
parts were
flying
those?
around in his nasty little mouth.
Mm.
Like I don't know that it's a horror movie necessarily, but I mean it dips its toe into that. It is body horror, I think, in a lot of respects.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's a lot of just like blood, guts, urine, semen.
Yeah.
Lots of.
I mean, it doesn't feel
all of them.
dissimilar from The Fly or something.
Right.
So I don't know. It's not what I would necessarily call a Halloween movie, but if I went to a 24-hour horror movie marathon,
Right.
and this was one of the movies, I wouldn't think that's weird. Why would that be one of the movies? Because there's copious amounts of horrible fluids everywhere. An important part of being a horror movie. I had a fun time watching it sort of in a weird way. And at the end I was like, that wasn't that bad. I mean, it's bad, but I think talking about it actually, though, I hated it a little bit more than I did when I was watching it.
See, I had more fun talking about it than I did watching it.
Uh-huh.
Watching it, I was extremely bored. At a certain point, I was just like, okay, I get it.
Yeah. I think there's too much of the drug dealer stuff. And when I thought back on the part on the docks, I was like, that was so stupid. Like,
Yeah.
even beyond just like how stupid this movie usually is, that part was such a nothing part of the movie.
But it's also, again, a 28-year-old who had no budget was able to make this movie, which is impressive.
Yeah.
And again, in film school, back in 2006, 2007, when I was in film school, a lot of people were making this kind of stuff.
That's totally
Still
yeah.
in that era, because we were influenced by the Sam Raimis of the world and the Peter Jacksons of the world.
Uh-huh.
And it was cheap and somewhat easy to make a bloody, gross out movie
Right.
than it was to make like a drama.
Right. The confounding factor here is the puppets, which must have been extremely hard and expensive.
Yeah, the guy who made the puppets' name was Cameron Chittick, who went on to make like actual children's show stuff in New Zealand.
Okay.
But there's some funny scenes in the behind the scenes doc where you see them like adding like some shading to the Heidi costume, and it does just seem like they had a spray paint can and were just like, I don't know, here, and they're like not taking a lot of care and really perfecting the shading on Heidi.
Yeah, I would guess they spent a lot of all-nighters feverishly making as many shitty-looking dog puppets as they could.
But yeah, I'll never watch this again.
I never will watch it again either. I think if you're comfortable with this kind of material. It is interesting to watch it and think about the Muppet Show. I also wondered a lot like how much Muppet Show Peter Jackson watched, or if he just had like a passing familiarity with it. Or I would love to know, like, I would love to just hear him talk about like why he did this in relation to the Muppet Show.
He says specifically that he did not mean it as like a knock at the Muppet Show.
Yeah. I
In
don't
one
see
of the
how you
interviews
could
I
really
watched.
interpret it as such anyway.
Yeah, he mentions that it is not meant to be like the Muppets are so sweet or for children that I'm going
Right.
to make the fun version of the
Right.
Muppets.
Right. I mean, Sydney the elephant having sex with a chicken really is the most like robot chickeny like part of the movie of like, wouldn't it be twisted if this happened?
This kind of does feel robot chicken-y.
Yeah, everybody
huh?
dies at the end, just like every robot chicken sketch.
Yeah, like specifically even the robot chicken sketch about Skeeter and Scooter. Like, there's a whole thing about like who murdered Skeeter back in the day.
Right.
And it pretty much is this kind of thing where Skeeter comes back and kills everyone.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was a movie. I don't know why this is the first time we chose to do a Halloween special, but
I don't know. It seems like like we love I love Halloween. I don't know why
Yeah.
I would never think there's a lot of Halloween movies with puppets in them, like Child's Play. You know, like
yeah.
puppets usage.
We talked about, obviously, Muppets Haunted Mansion when that came out. It was a little bit before Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about Puppet Master 3, Toulon's Revenge, which was a horror movie.
For my birthday, though.
Yeah. So we've done some Halloween adjacent puppet films before,
Right.
but
Right.
this is, if you want a different kind of gross Halloween, this was the one for you.
Yeah, if you're kind of a little bit twisted,
If you're nasty.
if you like to go
Watch
to
Meet the Feebles.
Spencer's Gifts and go in the back of Spencer's Gifts where the sex stuff is.
This is the Spencer's Gifts of Muppet movies.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, normally I'd say this is time for our Muppet of the Week, but we didn't talk about any Muppets this week, so you're not getting a Muppet of the Week this
I'm
week.
so glad we don't have to delve into any of these nasty.
I mean,
men.
everything you need we already talked about. There's no
Yeah.
more information about the Feebles other than what we saw on the screen.
Yeah.
So there's your Feeble of the Week section.
Yeah. Maybe there's feeble fan fiction out there, but we don't dabble in fan fiction.
Yet. Well then, Sam, gotta ask, besides Meet the Feebles this week, did you have time to enjoy anything else?
Yeah, I wrapped up having COVID last week.
Woo.
This last week.
Congrats.
So I'm COVID negative.
Woo.
But as I was finishing up, a couple games came out that I've been excited about. One, Sonic Superstars, the 4-player Sonic the Hedgehog game. And two, Super Mario Brothers Wonder, the new Mario game. With a new art style and new voice actors, all that stuff. It's like a fresh new Mario game. Sonic Superstars is such a shitty waste of money.
Oh,
I
no.
love Sonic Mania so much. Have you ever played that game?
No.
It's kind of the new 2D
I
Sonic
think I
game.
own it, but I don't think it's ever been
It's
played.
so fun. I probably have replayed that game more than almost any other game for some reason. Because it's just like a love letter to the whole series. But Sonic Superstars, I didn't know that like mainstream video games are allowed to be that bad because I don't play that
wow.
many really.
Yeah.
But it just feels like it feels like a fan game or something. There's just so much jankiness to it.
Wow.
It just sucks. But Mario Wonder, I have burned through the entire game. I have one level left to
Wow.
beat, and I just got too tired to beat it last night. It's so fun. Then I'm kind of like feeling profoundly sad that I beat it so fast, but I
That's
couldn't help
very
myself.
fast.
Yeah, it's not super long, which is kind of, it's not like, I feel like with Super Mario World, and maybe this is just because I was little and it was harder, but like, and Super Mario 3, like they're a little bit harder and you can like sink your teeth into it and they're like weirder, bigger worlds to like find secrets in and a
Mhm.
little bit more like obscure, maybe just because the game is so old that things are just a little weirder. But this has like, I don't know, lots of secrets, and the new art style of it is so great and so like emotive, and I don't know, there's like an online capability where it's kind of like Dark Souls where you're like playing and you see the ghosts of other people playing at the same
Oh.
time you're playing,
You're
and you
trying
can
to beat them, but also get more points than them.
it's actually no, it's more like if you die, and there's people in your world, you can like float over to them and they can bring you back to life, or you can set little like goalposts down so that people can come back to your goalpost and come back to life. And you get like little heart points for doing it, but I don't know what they mean. I just have a bunch of them, but it's really fun to like help people get through the levels and kind of like, or there's like some levels that are really cool where it's every character can see different things. Like there's different boxes that each character can see. So there's some levels where you're trying to like do a scavenger hunt and like get to places that look impossible. And you see the other characters running around and they're hitting the boxes that they can see and you're hitting the boxes you can see. And you're kind of trying to help each other be like, this is where this invisible box is, like non-verbally.
Right.
So you like will jump around and be like, look, or like stand somewhere that looks impossible to someone else playing on their screen because that box is still invisible. So there's lots of like really clever stuff. And then there's like levels where it's like a musical and the little bad guys come out and like sing songs to you. It's so fun. Right. It's just like really fun. Not super long, but you know it's never going to go on sale or anything. It's going to be $60 forever.
Right.
So
it's a Nintendo game.
If you want to play it, you might as well just buy it. But I really enjoyed it. How about you?
I've been playing Spider-Man 2.
How is it?
It's amazing.
I want to play it so bad. I loved the first one so much.
This is better. Everything about it. Like I also love the first one, but the web swinging, you can fly now. You can just...
You can like glide on your little web wings, right?
Yeah. But like moving around the world is so seamless and smooth that it's great. And yeah, all the new suits are great. The opening half hour is exhausting in a great way, where it's like a nonstop opening action scene.
Is that the one that they showed where it's like the boat and you're trying to, or you're chasing a boat? Okay,
this is a Sandman opening.
Okay, cool.
And it feels like the opening scene of a movie, and there's not like, you don't get to rest for like the first half hour of playing this game.
Cool. Yeah. I just need a PlayStation 5 so I can play it.
Thankfully, they're more available now.
Yeah.
They're still expensive, but you can find them more easily than you could last year. But yeah, no, I'm only like a couple hours in, but it's a lot of fun. Well, before we get out of here, we got to let you know what we'll be watching next time. And next time, thankfully, we're headed back to the safety of Fraggle Rock.
It's going to be so demure. Even like Fraggle Rock is like edgy kind of compared to other Muppet stuff, I feel like. But
you'd be like, oh, but they're all alive at the end. How weird.
Their blood didn't squirt out of their head. Interesting.
Well, we will be continuing our regularly scheduled chronological journey through the Muppet world as we finish up April of 1985 with more of Fraggle Rock Season 3. We'll watch 3 more episodes, and they are the ones titled The Battle of Leaking Roof, Playing Till It Hurts, and Bored Stiff. But yeah, we need to thank our friend Tuna for making the music for this podcast and Cassie Wilson for singing our theme song. Head on over to commitment.com to shop some merch, say hi to us, look at our faces, listen to some episodes. Whatever you want to do, you can do it at commitment.com.
I hope there's not people just going there to look at our faces, but
yeah, why not?
That's fine, I suppose.
I think there's sometimes when you listen to a podcast that you have no idea what the people look like.
Yeah. Sometimes you don't want to know.
Yeah. Maybe if you want to ruin that illusion for yourself, go over there and look at it and be like, oh, I never would have guessed.
People say that sometimes, and it's like, what does that mean?
Like, I never would have guessed you look like that.
Yeah, people on tangents say that a lot. It's just like, what?
It is hard. It's interesting because it's one of those things you can't do for yourself or for your friends of forgetting what they look like to try and imagine what the audience might picture.
Yeah.
But I know I have done that plenty of times with podcasts where I don't have any idea what the host looks like, or I see the host later on and I'm like, oh, interesting.
Yeah. I would love for people just to picture me as a talking dog. That's my ideal.
I once posted a picture of us aged.
Yes, I'm haunted by this.
Yeah, as like us doing this podcast 50 years from now. And somebody left a comment, I think, genuinely asking if that was what we looked like.
Oh, no. It's not.
It's not. But I think at first glance, they just thought that was real pictures of us.
So there's definitely people out there who think we're old, weird men.
Yeah, we're just moderately old, weird men.
Yeah.
We're 36, a perfectly fine age. Where were we? Oh, right. Go to commitment.com if you want to see our young, beautiful faces.
Hale and hearty.
And you can email us at mailercommitment.com if you have any questions or links to unseen Muppet things. You can follow the podcast everywhere on social media at Commitment Pod. You can follow me at Matthew Gatos.
And I'm Sam Schultz.
And as always, keep believing.
Keep pretending.